Week 7 of Big Brother 27 has come and gone, and this is probably the most normal week of Big Brother we've had in a while. With the back-to-back insane HOHs of Ava's HOH into Rachel's HOH, we were bound to have a cooldown week, and it just so happened to be this week. While there was some turbulence in the middle of the week, it was a pretty normal and standard week of Big Brother, all things considered, which isn't a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. It was just kind of normal. But how did it all break down? Well, that's why I'm here. In this video, I'm going to be recapping the events of Week 7 of Big Brother 27 and giving my updated power rankings. So with all of that preamble out of the way, it is the one and only RJ21 here. And let's get into the Big Brother 27 Week 7 recap and power ranking. Week 7 starts off with the Mystere Express HOH competition, which just so happens to be the iconic wall competition. It's not my favorite recurring competition, all things considered, but I definitely enjoy seeing it every single season. And I really love the theming that they went with this season. I love the Polar Express and the whole mystery vibe that they really brought into it. And it was overall just a really beautiful set piece, all things considered. But if you've never heard of the wall competition, basically the HouseGuests have to stand on this wall, and the wall is going to tilt periodically, and you have to stay on the wall for as long as possible. If you fall, you are eliminated. The last HouseGuest standing will become the new head of household. Ultimately, the competition comes down to Katherine and Vince tries cutting a deal with Katherine, considering the fact that Vince literally just blindsided and evicted Katherine's showmance in Riley in the prior week. So Vince is trying to cut a deal to get some sort of safety, but Katherine is having absolutely none of it, wanting to just compete it out and see how long they can go. But ultimately, by the end of it, Vince comes out on top and becomes the new head of household, winning his second HOH of the season. After the HOH competition, Vince immediately gets into his HOH talk and immediately starts talking strategy. He first has a conversation with Keanu, where Keanu is floating around the idea of possibly nominating and or backdooring Rachel, considering that Keanu is now anti-Rachel because he is worried about his jury prospects against Rachel, considering how Rachel is now being propped up as this huge jury threat who is near guaranteed to win a jury vote against anybody. And Keanu obviously doesn't want to go to the end with Rachel and lose to her, so Keanu is now trying to the best of his abilities to try and get Rachel out of the house this week. We then see Vince and Morgan having a conversation, and we're going to see a lot of those this week. But in this specific conversation, Morgan is trying to convince Vince to stay loyal to the judges, the newly formed alliance formed in the prior week, and how Morgan is emphasizing that Vince needs to stay loyal to this brand new alliance in order to protect not just Vince, but Morgan and everybody else, and it should be a net positive for Vince's game. Even though it technically shouldn't be, but I digress. Morgan is trying to convince Vince to stay loyal to the judges. Vince is then trying to do absolute damage control with Katherine, considering how Vince literally did the biggest betrayal to Katherine in evicting her showmance in Riley. So Vince is trying to mitigate any sort of tension between the two of them, promising that Vince is not going to be targeting Katherine, and Katherine is receptive to this and is obviously listening to Vince, but in the back of her mind, Katherine does not trust Vince whatsoever because of said betrayal. Vince then has a conversation with Mickey where Vince is heavily alluding to the fact that he is probably going to be nominating Mickey this week, considering that Mickey is a huge threat with a really good social game, according to Vince, somehow, and it would be dumb for Vince to not target Mickey. And this absolutely shocks Mickey because Mickey thought that she had a really tight alliance between herself, Vince, and Morgan in the melting pot, but now that alliance just seems to not exist anymore, and this completely blindsides Mickey, and it makes her really upset and makes her really regret not putting Vince up on her HOH. We then see a conversation between Keanu, Rachel, and Vince, where the three of them are talking about their possible options and who should be put up, but Rachel is mostly campaigning for herself to not go up on the block, considering that she knows she is a huge house target and she knows that she would probably go home if she were sitting on the block come eviction night. So Rachel is trying to do everything in her power to convince Vince to not put her up on the block. But once Rachel leaves the room and it's just Keanu and Vince, Keanu starts hardcore campaigning for Rachel to go up on the block, saying that this is probably the one and only opportunity they're going to get to take a shot at Rachel, and Rachel is such a huge threat, and you can see all the manipulative tactics she's using to try and convince Vince. Like, Keanu's throwing everything at the wall to try and get Rachel on the block, but does it all really stick? Not really. Like, it has some impact, but it's ultimately not enough to get Rachel actually on the block. Vince then has a conversation with Kelley, where Vince tells Kelley that he is probably going to be nominating Kelley as a pawn this week because he just isn't really sure where they lie. And this makes Kelley really upset because they were supposed to have a final two. And now Vince is burning Kelley once again. and any sort of hope of them working together seems completely lost at this point, with Vince potentially nominating Kelley. Finally, Vince, Morgan, and Will have one final conversation to ensure that Vince stays loyal to the judges and doesn't make any erratic moves in putting up Rachel. So Morgan is once again putting in all of this work to ensure that Vince does not go astray and betray the judges and stays loyal and sticks to the plan and does what is best for his game, or at least what is being proposed as what is best for his game. So at the nomination ceremony, Vince chooses to nominate Ava, Mickey, and Kelley, with Mickey as the target. After the nomination ceremony, Mickey is fuming at Vince because they were supposed to be in the melting pot together, and for Vince to put Mickey up on the block, it's essentially turning on that alliance, and it really makes Mickey wish that she should have put up Vince on her HOH. But her rage doesn't go to just Vince, as she's also very upset at Morgan, as Mickey strongly believes that Morgan had a hand in Mickey going up on the block. And the two of them get into a bit of an argument in the bathroom, where Mickey is accusing Morgan of having a hand in her going up in the first place. And even though Morgan did have a hand in actually getting Mickey up on the block, Morgan is actually denying this, saying that she didn't influence Vince whatsoever and Vince made his own decision, and she's not the HOH, so she has no reason to be mad at Morgan, which is kind of a falsity considering that Morgan did know that Mickey was going on the block. But that's besides the point, because Mickey's rage should be pointed towards mostly Vince and not Morgan. We then see Vince and Kelley having a conversation where Vince is trying to do damage control once again, where Vince makes another empty promise saying that if he were to win the veto, he would use it on Kelley and backdoor Rachel. Is Vince actually going to do this? Probably not, considering he doesn't want to make waves in the house, but he's just saying whatever he can to make Kelley feel comfortable. Vince then has a conversation with Mickey where he makes the same empty promise, saying that if he were to win the power veto, he would use it to save Mickey. And while it does calm Mickey in the moment, Mickey is smart enough to know that Vince is probably telling her a bunch of BS, and she knows that she has to win that power veto herself in order to stay safe this week. Vince and Keanu then have a conversation where Keanu is talking about how if he's picked to play in veto and he ends up winning the power veto, should he use the power veto to save Kelley? And Vince gives Keanu the A-OK, considering that he wants to once again play all sides and he wants to appease everybody. So Vince is telling Keanu exactly what he wants to hear, which is great news to Keanu, considering that he wants to not only save Kelley, but get Rachel put up on the block. So this is music to his ears. So Keanu then goes to Kelley and asks Kelley to pick him if she does get the choice for the power veto competition, because he's saying that he is going to save Kelley, and Kelley obviously wants to increase her chances of getting off of the block, so obviously she agrees. Vince and Morgan have yet another conversation where Morgan is talking about the potential of a renom and who should be that renom, and Vince is suggesting that it could possibly be Rachel, considering their past beef, and this stresses Morgan out, because Morgan, as a member of the judges and somebody who has newly repaired their relationship with Rachel, does not want Rachel on the block whatsoever. So Morgan is bringing up all these points about how putting Rachel up would be super bad for Vince's game, and Vince is actually believing this. Mickey and Will then have a conversation where they're talking about the power veto, and Mickey needs people she knows are going to play for her and possibly use the power veto on her, so Mickey goes to Will, considering the fact that Mickey trusts Will. But from Will's perspective, he doesn't want to play in this veto whatsoever, because he doesn't want to expose his hand and have to be put into a position where he betrays somebody. So Will is hoping that he doesn't get picked, or if he does get picked, he doesn't want to win whatsoever. We then pick players for the power veto competition, where the HOH and Vince, the three nominees in Ava, Mickey, and Kelley, and Will and Keanu, who are selected by a random draw, are all going to compete in the power veto. And this week's power veto competition is called Wine to Die For. Basically, this competition is a game of deception, where one random house guest is going to be presented with two glasses, one of which they know is poison and one of which they know is safe. They will then go up to a house guest of their choosing and give them one of the glasses. And that house guest that they choose to give the glasses to has the option to either keep their original glass or swap it with the one that they were originally given. Whichever house guest drinks the poison drink will get a red accessory, and if you drink the poison twice, you're out of the competition entirely. The last house guest standing will earn the power veto. Ultimately, the competition comes down to Mickey and Vince, with both of them having one red accessory, and by the end of it, Mickey comes out on top and wins the golden power veto. After the veto competition, Mickey is celebrating in the storage room alongside Rachel and Morgan, talking about how she is safe and this is the best case scenario. Except for the fact that Rachel and Morgan thought this is the worst case scenario, considering that they were targeting Mickey and they wanted Mickey out of the house. but now that Mickey is safe, they have to get back into Mickey's good graces. So while they are celebrating with her, it's not the most genuine celebration in the world. Vince then has a conversation with Morgan and Lauren, where the both of them are pulling Vince in opposing directions. Lauren really wants Rachel to go up on the block, while Morgan really doesn't want Rachel to go up on the block. And so they're really trying to pull Vince in their direction, and both of them can see exactly what the other person is trying to do. So it really is a battle of persuasion and who can get into Vince's ear. We then get another game of telephone, because this season just loves to have these games of telephone for some reason. We see Vince and Rachel having a conversation where Vince throws Keanu under the bus, saying that Keanu was trying to get Rachel put up on the block. And while this doesn't shock Rachel, it definitely is not good for her game, considering that Rachel and Keanu were supposed to have a final two. And if anybody is pitching her name, it's obviously bad news. So Rachel and Keanu have a conversation where Rachel talks to Keanu and asks him if he really did go up to Vince and tell her to put Rachel up on the block. And this makes Keanu go into panic mode, because obviously he didn't want this information to leak out because he wanted to blindside Rachel. So Keanu lies, but Rachel is able to see through Keanu's lies because Keanu's just that bad of a liar. Then Keanu and Vince have a conversation where Keanu tells Vince that Rachel told him about what Vince had said earlier. It's some crazy circular game of telephone, but eventually all this information gets back to Vince, and this makes Vince strongly consider putting Rachel up on the block, considering that Vince was trying to gain trust with Rachel by sharing this critical piece of information, and Rachel immediately went and leaked it, which is obviously really, really bad, and it puts Rachel this much closer to getting put up on the block as the replacement nominee. We then get yet another interpersonal conflict. In the beginning of the season, we had Showergate, but this time we have Winegate. It is Lauren's birthday, and everybody's celebrating and having a good time, and everybody decides to go around the table and say one nice thing about the person next to them. And this is something that Rachel does not like, because she doesn't play nice. She doesn't like this new fake happy version of Big Brother. She likes a more cutthroat version. So she is over this whole joyous happiness party. So Rachel goes to try and get some wine. And Kelley interprets this as a negative action, saying that, oh, Rachel must be annoyed at all of us and she doesn't want us to be having a good time. But her making this statement rubs a lot of people the wrong way. So Ashley then tells Rachel what Kelley was saying and insinuating, saying that there was some sort of issue and that there was some sort of problem. And Rachel obviously doesn't react well to this, considering that it is literally so minuscule, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme of things. But Kelley is trying to make something out of it through her instigating. So when a group of people are hanging out at the hammock and Kelley tries joining them, Rachel just cuts Kelley off and says, you can't sit there because I'm sitting there, creating even more tension between Rachel and Kelley. And then when Kelley's going to say goodnight to everybody and giving goodnight hugs, Rachel just flat out denies Kelley's hug, saying, oh, I don't want a hug. And this obviously sets Kelley off, not in sort of like an aggressive way, but more so in a kind of depressing way, because she believes that she's done nothing wrong to Rachel at this point, and Rachel is just being so mean for no reason. So eventually Kelley leaves and then just starts crying in the HOH room, which I would feel really sympathetic for if it weren't for the fact that Kelley was saying so many personal things about Rachel and Rachel's family, like how Kelley wants Rachel to be the first juror and doesn't want her to celebrate her anniversary with her husband, and her kids must be so disappointed in looking up to Rachel as a role model, and Brendan must be so disappointed in Rachel, and that Brendan could never support Rachel's gameplay, when it's like, okay, Kelley, if Rachel was being mean to you, I would understand it, but you're saying all these personal things about Rachel's family behind her back. I don't think you really get to be like, why is she so mean? I did nothing to her, when you've done, I think, plenty worse to Rachel at this point. Morgan sees this whole Winegate situation as an opportunity to convince Vince that it is not the right move to target Rachel. So Vince and Morgan have yet another conversation where Morgan is telling Vince that Rachel has other targets that are not Vince, most likely Keanu and Kelley. And so if Vince were to put Rachel up on the block, he would immediately skyrocket on Rachel's target list. And if Rachel were to win HOH and she isn't put up on the block, she would not be targeting Vince. And this is definitely enough to convince Vince to not put Rachel up on the block. Right before the veto ceremony, Rachel and Vince are having a conversation where Rachel is at the last minute trying to convince Vince that it is not the right move to put her up on the block because she's a loyal player and a loyal asset and would never come after Vince if he doesn't put her up on the block. But Keanu doesn't like this, so he tries interrupting the conversation. But Rachel tells Keanu to go away, so he eventually does. But after a long time, Keanu comes back and just barges into the conversation, absolutely interrupting things, creating yet another fight between Keanu and Rachel, where neither of them want to leave the HOH room and both of them want to continue their conversations. And eventually, Rachel does leave, and Keanu takes over the HOH room and saying that the whole situation is annoying and that this is the reason why Rachel should go up on the block because she's trying to control every sort of situation. But is this campaigning enough at the last minute? Ultimately, at the veto ceremony, Mickey obviously uses the power veto to save herself, and Vince chooses to nominate Katherine as the replacement nominee, leaving Ava, Katherine, and Kelley as the final nominees going into the blockbuster. After the veto ceremony, we see such a melodramatic scene between Vince and Keanu, where Keanu is saying that I don't know why I can't quit you, but for some reason, just in my heart, I know that you're a good guy and you're the best ally and that I have to keep working with you. I don't know why I give you so many chances, but I have to work with you. It's so melodramatic, it's so over the top, but it's so funny, and I absolutely love the entertainment of it all. At this point, Ava is probably the safest nominee, but Rachel is trying to decide which of Katherine or Kelley she wants to stay if they were to end up on the block next to each other. So Rachel is constantly going back and forth, saying that Kelley is such an unpredictable player, you would want to get her out. But Katherine is a much better player than Kelley, so you'd want to get her out because of that. Ultimately, it's just really difficult for Rachel to decide because both of them have their pros and cons about why they should be evicted. We then get to the BB blockbuster, which this week is called Hilltop Heist. And it's essentially like the ball rolling puzzle we've seen on something like the double eviction in Big Brother 20 or the first power veto in Big Brother 23. Basically, the HouseGuests have to roll this red pearl down a ramp and land it in a closed space. Whoever gets their pearl from the top of the course to the bottom and lands it in their correct slot will win the BB blockbuster and earn their safety. And I honestly expected this competition to go on a lot longer, but after literally like one round of placement, Kelley comes out on top and wins the blockbuster, earning her safety, leaving Ava and Katherine as the final nominees. At this point, there is pretty much no campaigning at this point. It seems like a pretty foregone conclusion. So come the live vote, by a vote of 7-1, Katherine is the 7th house guest to be evicted from the Big Brother house. Now it's time to get into the power rankings. At number 11, the most recently evicted house guest, we have Katherine. And it's honestly disappointing to see Katherine go home in this spot. Last week, I was talking about how there was potential for Katherine to bond with the other side of the house now that Riley was gone. It was an opportunity that wasn't previously present for Katherine. So I thought Katherine was going to take this opportunity and start building bonds with the likes of a Rachel or an Ashley or a Morgan, or at least somebody to gain some sort of repertoire with the other side of the house that could be beneficial for her in the future. But instead, she kind of just sulks the entire week and really sticks hard to the anti-Rachel sentiment, feeling really betrayed by Rachel and wanting to target Rachel at all costs. And because she is so determined on trying to get Rachel out, she really ignores her relationship with Vince. This could have been a golden opportunity for Katherine, especially on the wall. Vince was literally offering Katherine a deal of safety or some sort of protection, but Katherine just flat out rejects it because she wants to be the one to take the shot. And she was so dead set on trying to get this one goal in mind, she completely ignores Vince. And because she ignores Vince, Vince doesn't feel that necessarily connected to Katherine, which leads to her getting put up as the replacement nominee and her eventually getting evicted. Overall, Katherine's game is kind of fine, all things considered. It's really hard to really pinpoint Katherine's game considering she was so attached to the hip with Riley for basically the entire game. And while there were some points where Katherine was making her own moves and had her own strategic viewpoint on a lot of things and perspective on the house, she wasn't really able to do anything with it because she was so latched down by Riley. And then once Riley's gone, Katherine isn't able to do anything with all of these abilities that she has, which ultimately doesn't bear well for her, which is why she ends up here at number 11.
I could easily be a target for Vince because he lacks spine and is easily manipulated. I genuinely think that Vince is going to be too chicken to take it.
Now it's time to talk about the house guests that are actually still in the game. At number 10, the house guest I believe to be in the worst position in the house is Kelley. And if Kelley didn't win this blockbuster, she was 100% going to go home. Like, honestly, she would have gone home unanimously against either Ava or Katherine, which is definitely saying something. But there is a plus side to her winning this blockbuster, as she now holds the record for the most blockbusters won throughout the entire existence of this twist, beating out the likes of both Tucker and Mackenzie from last season. So that's definitely something to put on her resume. But outside of that, Kelley is in a horrible position. Like, genuinely, it's so bad, it's unfathomable. Kelley is such a huge target for the likes of Rachel and Ashley and Morgan and Mickey. They want to get Kelley out, not because of how erratic of a player she is, but because of how bad of a juror she's going to be. Everybody is talking about, since they are so close to the jury phase of this game, everybody's talking about who they want to put on the jury, which is kind of ironic considering all the drama that created in the prior weeks. But at this point, considering that they are so close to the jury, they really have to consider who they put and who they don't put on the jury. And Kelley is somebody that damn near nobody wants on the jury. She is probably being perceived as somebody who is not going to vote logically, and somebody who's going to vote emotionally, and somebody who just doesn't understand fundamentally what makes a good winner of Big Brother. And nobody wants that on the jury. So players who are more strategically inclined to look at the jury prospects, somebody like a Rachel, a Mickey, a Morgan, and Ashley, because of that, they all want to target Kelley and they all want to get her out of the house because she is just going to poison the jury and she is not going to bode well for damn near anybody, which is why everybody wants to get her out. And that is just so bad. And to make matters even worse, she doesn't even have any allies to protect her at this point. Like, she is genuinely a lone wolf and just has to keep winning all of these competitions in order to keep herself safe, which is really bad, all things considered. And because she has damn near no chance of moving forward, I have to put Kelley here at number 10.
At one point in this game, Vince and I had a final 2. On day 2. Does that mean nothing to you? You've brought me to my lowest multiple times. I don't know how much more I can take, Vince.
At number 9, I have Keanu. And Keanu had so much bad gameplay this week, it's genuinely insane. First of all, Keanu's on the wrong side of the vote in voting to keep Riley, so he's automatically on the bottom in that sense. But then when he is still connected to the player who put that blindside into motion in Rachel and still has a good working relationship with her, he decides to just throw it all away because he's now starting to perceive Rachel as an endgame threat, which is true. Like, Rachel is an endgame threat, but Keanu so publicly just throws away that relationship that he now makes himself such a huge target. People weren't targeting Keanu because of his connection to Rachel, and Rachel was putting in a lot of good work to keep people from not targeting Keanu and shifting that target onto the people like Kelley or Katherine. But now, because Keanu has essentially disconnected himself from Rachel, Rachel now has no incentive to keep Keanu safe and is now actively targeting Keanu. Like, Keanu was genuinely safe, genuinely was building a lot of good repertoire with a lot of people in the house, was slowly accumulating some sort of social capital, and he just throws it all away because he can't even fathom how Rachel outplayed him and outsmarted him, and for some reason it's just not a possibility in Keanu's world. So because of that, Keanu wants to get Rachel out, which is so infuriating because Keanu was actually starting to put in good work, and for him to just throw it all away, he's now once again on the bottom of the house to where he needs to now win yet another competition in order to stay safe. It's a really bad position for him to be in, and he now has no allies that are really fighting to keep him safe. Like, yes, he has Kelley, but that's more so a necessity of the both of them being on the bottom of the house and kind of being forced to work together, more so than the two of them actually wanting to work together. So even though Keanu has the ability to win a competition and should have some remnants of something good there with Kelley, because of all of the poor work he did with Rachel, he's at the bottom of the house, which is why I have him here at number 9.
This is so dumb. There's literally no reason for Vince to tell her this.
At number 8, I have Mickey. And Mickey was the initial target this week, where if she doesn't win the power veto or the blockbuster, she is definitely going home. She is probably one of the biggest threats left in the house. She has a pretty good social game, at least within the house. She is very strong strategically, and she has pulled off a huge move in getting Jimmy out. But not a lot of people trust her, which makes her a huge target and why people want to get her out. And she was really close to going home this week. But after she wins the power veto, she is able to do some really good work in reintegrating herself with Rachel's side of the house. People on Rachel's side are now starting to slowly trust Mickey again. It's not like undying trust where they're just loyal to Mickey and they're going to go to her because of her amazing social game. Nothing in that regard. but people are starting to slowly include Mickey in plans again, which they weren't really wanting to do in prior weeks. But now that the numbers are getting really small and Mickey is showing that she is at least capable of working with at this point in the game, people on Rachel's side are starting to feel incentivized to keep Mickey in the house, at least for a little longer as a number. However, the main issue with that is that she's now pushing away that other side of the house. Katherine would have been somebody who could have kept Mickey safe, but now that Katherine's gone, nobody else on that other side of the house feels really inclined to work with Mickey whatsoever. The likes of Lauren, Kelley, or Keanu definitely don't want to work with Mickey, and Vince is somebody who, if he wins power again, Vince is definitely going to target Mickey again because Vince has already severed that tie. So Mickey is a huge target for that other side of the house. But Mickey has done some really good work with Rachel's side. And it is a bit of a balance, but that target she has on her back is definitely weighing heavy on her. And because of that, I don't have the most faith in the world for Mickey. But because she has so many good connections on this side, I do have some faith that she is going to be in this game a little bit longer, which is why I have her here at number 8.
Kind of makes sense why it took him 10 years to get here. Don't think he was ever really qualified to begin with. God forbid I have a good social game and I'm a nice person. My parents raised me well, duh.
At number 7, I have Lauren. And Lauren is so passive, it genuinely hurts. Earlier in the week, Lauren caught wind of Rachel saying that Lauren is an indecisive player. And ironically enough, Lauren was like, who's saying I'm indecisive? I make decisions in this game. I'm not indecisive, when it's like there are so many prime examples of Lauren being indecisive. Like there's a literal meme that Lauren is scared to go outside. Like if that doesn't scream out indecisive, I don't know what does. But in terms of the game that she's playing right now, Lauren is in a bit of a tumultuous spot. Lauren is a prime pawn if somebody on the other side of the house wins. Like if Rachel or Morgan or Ashley were to win HOH, Lauren is such an easy pawn to throw up there. It's kind of insane that Lauren is letting this game slip by her this much. She is putting basically all of her eggs into Vince's basket, but Vince hasn't done anything at this point to return the favor to Lauren. Like Lauren used the power veto to save Vince in the prior week, and what has Vince done for her? He didn't vote with her at the prior eviction, and then he proceeds to put up all of Lauren's closest allies. Like, I have no idea why Lauren is putting so much trust into Vince, but at this point, because of how much trust she's put into Vince, she doesn't really have that many options left. She's just slowly losing all of these opportunities around her to where she's just slowly running out of runway, to where she just doesn't have any sort of path forward in this game. I think she kind of needs to win a competition like an HOH in order to restructure things in her favor. Like, yes, she could pick up the allies of Keanu and Kelley, but is that the best scenario? No, because Keanu and Kelley are horrible allies. So the fact that Lauren is in this kind of cornered position to where she's forced to work with these people she isn't really inclined to work with in the first place, and she has no sort of inways with that other side, and she's such an easy pawn. This game is just slowly escaping her grasp, which is why I have her here at number 7.
I see what Morgan's doing here. She doesn't want Rachel going up, so she's trying to make her look so scary and dangerous. It would be way too much of a threat for Vince, but if he has the opportunity, he needs to take it.
At number 6, I have Rachel, and this was a huge week for Rachel. Like, Rachel was like this close to going up on the block, both initially and as a replacement nominee. But because she has so many undyingly loyal allies surrounding her and so many people that are genuinely invested in keeping Rachel safe in the game, Rachel is gaining all of these favors. And the fact that Rachel didn't go up on the block this week is genuinely insane. But it's obviously amazing for her game. Like I said earlier, Rachel having so many of these allies surrounding her that want to actively keep her safe and are doing everything in their power to try and keep Rachel safe, it's amazing for her. Like, it wasn't shown in the edited episodes as prominently, but the likes of Ashley and Morgan were going to work day in, day out, night in, all of these late nights. They were going super hard to keep Rachel as safe as possible. And it worked because she didn't end up on the block. But now moving forward, it's a really dichotomy-esque type of situation to where she has so many close allies that want to keep her safe. Like Ashley, Will, Morgan. They're undyingly loyal to Rachel and they want to keep her safe. But she also has a ton of people on the other side who want Rachel out at all costs, like Lauren and Kelley. So if either of them were to come into power, and they would 100% take that shot at Rachel, which is really, really bad because if she is sitting on the block come eviction night, even some of those close allies, if they're sitting next to somebody like a Mickey or a Morgan, I think Rachel would not have the votes to stay because she's just that big of a target. And it makes me a bit worried. Like, yes, Rachel is kind of in a position like Mickey to where she has so many close allies around her, but she also has a lot of people targeting her. But the difference between Rachel and Mickey is that Rachel's allies that trust her really, really trust her, and they want to work with her at all costs. And because she does have that huge upside on her, despite all of her downsides, I do have Rachel here at number 6.
Am I shocked? No. But is Keanu the dumbest person ever? Absolutely. I mean, the audacity, Keanu. Like, actually.
At number 5, I have Vince. And Vince handled this HOH about as good as he could have, considering that he obviously chose a side last week with the judges in choosing to evict Riley. Vince winning this HOH was huge for his game. Initially, when he first won, I was kind of like, why are you winning this HOH? You are literally in the middle. You did not need to expose your cards. But seeing how the week played out, Vince definitely needed to win this HOH, both to take a shot at the other side who was targeting him and build trust with this newfound judges alliance that he is kind of forced into working with at this point. Because he chose to vote with the judges and vote to evict Riley, Vince was kind of forced to work with the likes of Rachel and Ashley, which are people he definitely doesn't trust at all, but because he voted with them, he kind of has to work with them. So through him winning this HOH and standing on his actions with the judges, targeting that other side of the house, it is a clear-cut sign that Vince is working with that side, which is buying him huge favor. Like if Vince were to target the other side, or if Vince were to target Rachel's side, like putting Rachel up on the block at all, this would have 100% severed trust with that side of the house, and Vince once again becomes a huge target from both sides of the house. Like if Katherine stayed, she was going to target Vince, and if Vince puts Rachel up on the block, Rachel and all of her allies are obviously coming after Vince. So Vince played this about as well as he could have, going after Katherine and Kelley by extension. Like Vince played this pretty well, all things considered. Now, obviously with him winning HOH, I think it still put a bit of a target on his back. There are still people who would put Vince up on the block, more so as a pawn, but there are still people who would somewhat target Vince. Like if Rachel, ironically enough, was put into a position where she has to make a replacement nominee, I'm inclined to believe that Vince is most likely that replacement nominee. Now, truth be told, I don't think Vince is likely going to be going home because he does now have all of this newfound trust and people do actively want to work with him, like people like Keanu for some reason. I do think Vince has some protection, but there are some worries because some people are looking at him as a target, which is why I have him here at number 5.
Keanu, it was a rhetorical question. What are you doing? Do you want Mickey to have this veto? Here you go, Keanu.
At number 4, I have Ashley. And Ashley was putting in some really impressive work this week, all things considered. Ashley was going to bat to try and keep Rachel safe, and she was eventually successful. It wasn't shown on the edited episodes, but Ashley was having a lot of conversation with Vince that were actually pretty influential, that not only secured the trust of Vince, but it kind of separated Ashley and Rachel to make it seem like they're not as close as they actually are, where Ashley is framing Rachel as this sort of shield that they need to keep in the game, despite the fact that Ashley is undyingly loyal to Rachel and wants to keep her in the game no matter what. The fact that Ashley is creating this separation makes her much less of a target than if she was so closely attached to Rachel. Now, I will say, Ashley is still a bit of a tertiary target. If somebody on the other side, like Lauren or Keanu or Kelley, were to win HOH and target Rachel, I think Ashley is an easy nominee to go up right next to Rachel. I mean, Ashley is still, while she has created that bit of separation, Ashley is still somebody associated with that side of the house. So I do think that Ashley would be that easy target, to where if Rachel were to win a power veto or a blockbuster to keep herself safe, and Ashley sitting on the block next to somebody who's more connected or more well-liked in the game, I think Ashley probably goes home, which is bad, obviously, but I do think Ashley still has some really good connects. She obviously has this really tight relationship with Rachel, but she also has these tight bonds with the likes of Morgan, Mickey, Will, and Ava, and I think these are going to be bonds that really, really propel her forward in the game. I think if she can avoid a sort of collateral damage sort of situation to where she ends up on the block next to Rachel, I do think Ashley is going to be able to play this forward. And this is honestly going to be really, really great for her game, all things considered, because she needs all of these shields in front of her in order to keep herself safe so she isn't viewed as a target. And going into this endgame stretch, that is huge for her. And I think if she plays her cards right, she's going to continue being in a pretty good position, which is why I have her here at number 4.
She's already back to her old antics and it's been like not even an hour she's been off the block. You know what I'm saying? Like, you saved your best friend and you got safe. What more could you ask for?
At number 3, I have Morgan. And if Ashley was going to work, Morgan was also definitely going to work. Like, she was spending every single night in Vince's HOH room, and she was going so hard on the strategy, trying to convince Vince of literally everything that she wanted to happen, and everything she wanted to happen actually happened. So Morgan's influence on this week was genuinely insane. Adding on to that, she was able to build so many good connections across this entire week. It's just one of the benefits of your closest ally winning HOH without actually winning HOH. Because Morgan wasn't the one in the position of power who had to make all of these tough decisions, she was really able to focus on building all of this trust and building all of this social capital that she had lost in the prior weeks, and she did a very, very successful job at that. Obviously, she repaired her relationship with Rachel, but this week, she went even further beyond to where now Rachel really, really trusts Morgan. Morgan also built a lot of really good trust with Mickey, and they really repaired their relationship in that sense, to where Mickey now definitely trusts Morgan, but Morgan doesn't trust Mickey as much. So that puts Morgan in a much more optimal position. She's also really well ingrained within the Judges Alliance, and she still has all of those good connects with the likes of Ava. So all things considered, Morgan is protected socially on so many fronts. It's genuinely insane. Like, if you would have told me the Morgan from like a couple weeks ago was in this good of a position now, I would have said you're insane. But Morgan is really demonstrating her game ability at this point. The fact that she was able to recover so quickly and get all of her social capital back after losing it in 2 honestly terrible weeks, it is honestly really, really impressive that Morgan is pulling all of this off. The only issue I have with Morgan is, just like with Ashley, Morgan is probably going to be a very easy pawn if somebody like a Keanu, a Kelley, or Lauren were to win HOH. Obviously, they're going to be taking a shot at Rachel, and because of that, they need to put up people who are close to Rachel. And now that Morgan has built all of this good bonds back up with Rachel, Morgan is now once again probably going to be an easy pawn. But honestly, in comparison to last time, I don't think Morgan would be that prominent of a target. Yes, people are going to pin the fact that Morgan is a gamer, not like a gamer, but she's somebody who's playing the game hard. And the fact that Morgan is probably going to overplay her hand at some point. And she is somebody who is playing the game hard. But I don't think Morgan is being viewed as huge of a target at this point, when there are much more prominent players left in the game at this point, like Rachel. So I do think this is going to spell well for Morgan, which is why I have her here at number 3.
I'm pretty sure she was questioning between me and Riley who to keep. That's a problem.
At number 2, I have Ava. And it is insane that I have Ava this high. Typically with nominees, I don't expect them to rise that high or land that high on these power rankings, considering that, they were on the block and they were in a position of danger. So because they are in that position of danger, they are bound to lose some sort of social capital or lose some sort of traction in some way throughout the entire week. But Ava throughout this entire week was genuinely so safe. Like, I don't think there was a single instance or a single scenario with the nominees to where Ava would genuinely go home. Like, the riskiest situation, I guess, is Katherine versus Ava. But even in that situation, Katherine went home 7-1. So Ava was genuinely protected throughout the entire week. Everybody loved Ava. Everybody loved Ava. Nobody was ever targeting her anytime soon, and nobody views her as a threat. So Ava is going to be good for pretty much a lot of this upcoming season. Now, the only issue with that is that now with Ava going up on the block for the first time, people on that other side are going to view Ava as a very easy pawn. Somebody like a Keanu could very easily throw Ava up on the block. And in that scenario, Ava would once again be in a position of danger. But once again, I don't think Ava is genuinely going to be going home. Like, yes, she is sitting on the block. Yes, there's obviously a chance for Ava to go home. But similar to this week, there are so many huge targets in front of Ava that nobody should, in their right mind, be sending Ava home. Maybe if it were like a situation where it's like an Ashley versus Ava and Rachel really wants to keep Ashley. so she's going to bat. And maybe in that sense, Ava might go home, but that's such an unlikely scenario because of how well liked Ava is within the house that I don't realistically see that happening. Now, truth be told, even if something isn't realistically going to happen, it can still happen. Like, this season has obviously proved me wrong numerous times. But at this point, Ava is so protected and has so many people around her that love her and want to protect her and bring her further into the game. I genuinely think Ava has a really, really good chance of moving forward and staying safe despite being up on the block. And it's honestly really impressive that all this is going down with how safe Ava is, which is why I have her here at number 2.
This game is hard, and you build such close personal relationships. I mean, what can I do?
At number 1, the HouseGuest I believe to be in the best position in the house as of week 7 is Will. And it is actually insane that Will is in as good of a position as he is. For some reason, Vince just didn't want to nominate Will whatsoever, despite Will and Vince not having that close of a working relationship. And that just proves to show how strong Will's social game is. Even though Will isn't actively listening in a lot of these conversations, people believe he is. And people believe that Will is such a great listener and the best person in the house to talk to, that everybody trusts Will. Nobody at this point in the game is targeting Will. Nobody in the house has any good reason to target Will. Like, maybe the only person who would ever put Will at risk is like Lauren. Like, that is the only scenario in which I would see Will being in any sort of danger. But honestly, everybody in the house loves Will. Nobody is targeting him. He has so many targets in front of him that he's genuinely protected. And his side of this house is still in power, numerically speaking. He is working with the likes of Ava and Rachel and Mickey and Morgan. And now he's picked up a new ally in Vince. So now Will has so much protection surrounding him. Like, I don't see Will getting targeted anytime soon. Now, truth be told, if somebody on the other side of the house, like a Kelley or Lauren, were to win HOH, I could very easily see Will going up as a pawn. But even in that scenario, if Will is on the block as a pawn, even come eviction night, I don't think Will is going home because there are so many people who are much larger targets in front of him. Nobody is incentivized to get Will out at this point in the game. Maybe later on down the road where the numbers are really dwindling and people are prioritizing keeping the people that they want to keep in the house safe rather than getting out the big threats. Maybe in that scenario, down in the end game, Will is in a bit of danger, but that's the end game. And I don't really see Will being in a position of danger as of right now. And because of that, I have to put Will here at number 1.
Sometimes I wish I could fast forward my way through some of these conversations. Just go through it and just be done with it. Shout out to Gwen and recording DVR and make sure that battery's in the remote when I get home.
Overall, this week was pretty normal, all things considered. There wasn't any sort of huge dramatic twist that changed the game and will change the trajectory of the season forever. Like, nothing in that regard. But it was just a pretty normal week, all things considered. Like, Vince won HOH. He had a pretty straightforward week. He did have a bit of rocky ground and potentially considering nominating Rachel at numerous points in the week. And that definitely created a lot of drama and tension at that point. But once that time passed, Rachel was pretty much safe and everything was pretty much smooth sailing up until that point. We had a pretty obvious outcome to where whichever one of Kelley or Katherine lost the blockbuster was most likely going to be going home. Most likely Kelley, but obviously Kelley won the blockbuster. So as a result, Katherine ends up going home, which is pretty obvious, all things considered. But now we are entering a different stage of the game. Upcoming week is going to be the final week of the pre-jury phase, which means this next jury phase of the season is only going to last like 24 days. You know who else lasted 24 days? Adrian. Adrian was in the house for 24 days. And that's how long the jury phase is going to last, which makes so little sense to me. But with the jury phase lasting such little time, a lot of people are predicting that it is going to be a double eviction into a triple eviction. And if that is the case, I really, really hope that we have a Big Brother Canada style of triple eviction where it's voting to save someone rather than voting to evict double the times. So I really hope that we do have a BB Can style triple eviction. I'm also just hoping we have a triple eviction in the first place and not 3 doubles, because that would be low-key kind of lame. But honestly, if this endgame is super fast-paced and super ramped up, I'm really excited to see how everything breaks down with how chaotic this house can be sometimes. But those are just my thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.